I did not have trauma bonding over dads with lost memories on my bingo card, but clearly I should have. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here from Thematic doing to have it on me and keep it on me at all times. Say another fun fact. It is time. It's time for 4 Nights of the Apocalypse. Chapter 202. The Truest of Evils. And ladies and gentlemen, dare I say, this chapter was just a little teeny tiny bit of a banger. How much of a banger was it? According to live reaction, guess how long that thing was? Not 10 minutes, not 20 minutes, not 35 minutes. This is why I try to watch the timer, because I was not meant to yap that long. But as you could tell, if the live reaction is going to be 35 minutes, we're going to be here for a minute. So let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into chapter 202, the Truest of Evils. But plot twist, no we aren't. We got to address this thick, juicy, I'm so sorry. I feel so bad for some of y'all who wear like, the thing is, though, I'm not sure which is worse. Is it worse for me to be making those noises directly into your earlobes? Because you got headphones in or you got headphones on, like, obviously, if you're like me and you're constantly have like buds in your ears, whether you're listening to me at the gym or at work and bada bing bada boom, then it's there's no space. It is those noises directly into your ear canal. But like, if you're a headphone user like me, you listen like this, does that make it worse or better? But then the real thing is, like, I know some of y'all listen to me without headphones. I'm like, what does that sound like? 9 out of 10. Like, I mean, notably, I'm pretty chill with the the noise and stuff like that. But sometimes the thoughts possess me. Overtake me. Sometimes I lose myself a little bit, so I'm sorry. Will I stop? No. That's what I was about to lie to y'all. But speaking of the noises, why I'm making them, this thick and juicy, scrumdiddlyumptious cover page, which does seem to be a kin part of the narrative, let's break it down a little bit. First things first, I'll admit it's kind of weirdly angled, especially from how we're gonna see the Colossus later on. What on earth is this thing called? What was it called? No, I don't want to scroll back. I'm not gonna remember what it's called. But whatever. Essentially, Goliath. It was called Goliath. I literally was gonna make a David and Goliath joke last review, but I forgot to. But essentially, we see Goliath here, relatively low to the ground, I'd say, like almost as if our cast and crew is standing on a cliff and Goliath is beneath the cliff, even though we know Goliath likely isn't. But at the same time, this could hypothetically signify that Goliath's legs were lopped off, and maybe that's why it's on the ground. But the only reason why I don't think that is because we have our 3 main powerhouses here sort of doing everything they can right here, right now, to do what appears to be base level damage to Goliath. If you'll look at it here, we see this right here, which at first, in live reaction, I thought this was like a Percival life spirit, and I was like, Gangaroonie, you can't be here right now. You currently are dealing with Papa Pel, Papa Side, Papa Treep, and Mommy Dane. I've seen a lot of World in Love. A lot of it. Like, y'all look, and I still remember all the jokes people were making when she first showed up and it was revealed she made the lizard people. A lot of y'all were asking what that tongue, but regardless, I was so confused, but this is the spirit, which, I do, see, especially considering it almost seems, then again, there are two wolves fighting inside of me. There's the wolf that's screaming, pencil. Nassim is going to die. She is just gonna die. Like one of these chapters, she will be boomed. Whether it be in the penultimate chapter, one of the last chapters, regardless, Nassim will die, and thusly she will never be able to move on. But I really don't like the spirit being so Percival based. And here's the thing, not even for the fact that it doesn't make sense in character, not even for the fact that the new forms that Nassim could develop further on couldn't be interesting based around Percival as well. I think the main reason I'm not the biggest fan of it is because the spirit spears are like my favorite weapon, maybe, period. Like, not even just in 7deadlysins, but like just my favorite weapon in general. I don't own one because Shastiful is huge and I have no idea where I'd put it. And also, I just haven't really seen any good replicas made of it. Any of its forms, by the way. None of it. Like, not well, then again, I wouldn't really want the last form of Shastiful. Honestly, if I would have a singular form, it'd be the middle form. But with it being the case, I just love all the spirit spears. even Dahlia's, which got like 5 seconds of screen time. So to see Nasi's Spirit Spear, our fairy giant hive representative, our Cayenne kid representative, just wield a power that is very, very aesthetically similar to our main character because of their feelings for him. It's kind of whack. It'd be like if all of Diana's powers were based around King. She has a power, singular, based around King. And I guess you can technically make the same case for Nasi, right? Because ultimately, it's just the Spirit Spear that's patterned after Percy. Everything else that Nasi does is Nasi's original. But considering it's clear that in these bigger bad battles, now that they've been introduced to the Spirit Spear, they're going to be relying on it a whole lot more, just like they daddy and their uncle and their uncle and their... Yeah, no, daddy, uncle, and uncle, because there was first Fairy King Loxinia, second Fairy King Dahlia, third Fairy King Harlequin, who is their daddy. So, like their daddy did, like their uncle did, like their uncle did. They're going to be relying on the Spirit Spear, which I'm not saying is a bad thing, but I think the design is a little. I'm hoping it evolves, and this isn't like the end of it. Not just because there could be more forms made, but also because we know that King's Spirit Spear went through many evolutions. You can still keep like a loose Percival motif, but please make it just a bit more unique, Nakaba. You cook so well with the weapons previously. I want to see more cookage with them. But speaking of cookage, Nasi's does do pretty decent damage tearing through the shoulder, but it is just that. They tear through the shoulder, not doing any damage to the arm, not taking the arm off, anything, just tearing straight through the armor and through the shoulder and immediately reforming it into some other form of attack. Presumably the second form to block an attack. Then, actually, I think the first form is the big fluffy Percival and the second form is the spear for some reason. Once again, Nakaba's making a lot of weird, like, design and character choices with the Spirit Spear. I don't know, man. Like, for my favorite thing ever, it really is rough in Nasi's hands. But, speaking of other people's hands, we see that poor Donnie, I saved everyone's lives, now I'm super drained Donnie, has to be toted away by Edlin. Now, I will admit, Edlin, an infinitely more W man than I would have given him credit for when he was first introduced. Because he does pick up Donnie, who ain't no small fry. That man is huge. And just sprints away to save his life. Obviously, Edlin and his ability, which I believe was just to make a hard construct illusion, wouldn't actually be that useful. I'm assuming Goliath will crush it in one hit and then immediately move on. But then again, he could use one. Maybe. I'd hope. But with it being the case, he's running away. But the other powerhouse he mentioned, I already talked about how Nasi's is currently dealing damage to Goliath. But look at another person who's not dealing damage, but at least holding back Goliath with their abilities. Captain Hauser. And remember, Hauser was already like struggling a little bit, just saving all the people he did with the miniature tornadoes he did. So the fact that he's able to hold back Goliath at all with just a wind gust, very, very impressive, Captain. Right, Captain. I see what you are. I respect your strength. And speaking of sheer strength, while we have Nasians as a mixed attacker using Fizz and magic through the Spirit Spear, we have Hauser as a pure magic attacker solely using his wind magic. We have a certain shirtless, handsome gentleman. Wait. How do I? Actually, I haven't picked it up in so long. Let's see. I keep talking about how much stronger I've gotten. Let's see how strong I've gotten. Really. Hold on. Not you. Oh, this is gonna be so dangerous. Let me move you first. Not you. Holding weapon 2, though you have gotten lighter. But with how heavy that is to me, I am worried that this thing is still gonna be too heavy. Do I dare move you? It's already too late. I'm already committed to the bit. Let's see, can I lift you with one hand? Ooh, still not yet. I haven't gotten to this level of strength where I can wield it properly. But, come here. Yeah, big boy. Actually, can I wield you in one hand? No. Oh, she's still too heavy. Oh, but she's beautiful. Oh, she's so dusty. I need to clean her off. Oh, I can put you on my shoulder, though. Yeah. But in honor of my juicy... okay, good. I have the dull side of the plate to the back. Right now, I didn't want to actually cut myself. But in honor of my juicy, scrumbly, Heavenly King Ballin, he is basically wielding a Buster Sword right now. Oh, and actually, you know what? It's not too bad in 2 hands now. This thing is pure metal, by the way. Like, I thought, is the hilt metal? Yeah, the hilt is metal. The pommel's metal. Everything on this thing is metal. That's why it's so heavy. Like, this is just a hunk of metal. I remember seeing it on Etsy, and I was like, I need to cop this, even though I haven't played a single Final Fantasy game. This is genuinely, this is a one-handed sword, though. I know he's a superhuman soldier, but darn, this thing is, like, heavy. But I actually can hold it in one hand, which I can't say I would have been able to do before. Obviously, it's still a little bit shaky, but my glorious, handsome, legendary Juicy King Ballin, we have our mixed attacker in Nasians, we have our special attacker in Hauser, and now we have our solo Fizz in Ballin straight slashing off Goliath's arm. Now, admittedly, it is pretty metal to see Ballin using just his pure stats again. I think this is just hard confirming that Ballin, in fact, will not be power crept. I saw a lot of people, especially after the Gawain match, assuming, oh, Ballin's just fodder, oh, Ballin's just trash, oh, Ballin's this, Ballin's that. Ballin still clears a lot of the original series. Not all of it. Not all of it. Definitely not all of it. But still, he's not fodder. Let's not do this. Let's not downplay my glorious, handsome, legendary, juicy, beefy, jacked, shirtless king right now. He's not fodder. But he is slicing off the arm. Now, I will admit, I am wondering why he's not just going for the head again and again and again and again, especially considering what's going to be shown later on this chapter. The head is the source of the magical attacks, which are obviously putting on the AoE and range damage for Goliath, essentially allowing it to attack in multiple ranges at once. It can either attack at close range near its feet and by either stepping or swinging its club, and or fire beams from the head. But we already saw Ballin does have head cutter blade. I'm so careful swinging this thing, because if I drop it, I will lose something. My hand, my legs, my toes, the floor. Like something will break if I drop this. But with it being the case, it is interesting. We do have to have some sort of tension, but what I am hoping for, even with this chapter not giving me back, I'll spoil that, obviously. It does not give me back my glorious, juicy, legendary, handsome, scrumly up King Lancelot. Not yet. It does sort of set up the idea that he could come in solo, or one of the knights may have to come back and help solo Goliath. I hope that's not the case. I do hope our current cast and crew is able to take it down, because we do see a lot of characters who should be here, but there is one in particular who's missing. Notice who. Think about it. Of the platoons, we'll see. In fact, I'll name every single character of the side platoons that we have seen in this chapter. In fact, I think there are 2 characters missing, not just one. There are 2 characters who could definitely do things that could interact with spirits, and we know that Goliath is currently composed of raging spirits. And there are 2 characters who deal with that, who are very specifically missing throughout this entire chapter. You do not see one lick of either of them, unless this fella right here is meant to be them, but I ultimately think that's meant to be Pelio. Because we see that we have our 3 attackers, we have Donnie running away. Poor Anne is, I guess, doing her best to try and defend Nasians. I'm not saying it's not valid. Like I appreciate girls protecting girls and all that, but like, and you know you're not built for this. You better back up out the way before you accidentally get diffed. But I think this is meant to be Pelio or just some random. But I'll confirm, we do not see Kion or Gareth. Or Gareth, obviously, but Gareth summons Gareth. We do not see either of them this entire chapter. We see Isolde, we see Isolde 2, we see Ballin, we see Donnie, we see Edlin, we don't see Boris either, but what's Boris gonna do? But sorry, that sounds so mean. But we see everybody else. Okay, don't put you down. It's been a little bit. It's been a little bit. I think because I'm scared of letting it go. But essentially, we see everyone else, but the 2 characters who very specifically have things to do with spirits aren't here. We know Gareth has the ability to interact with spirits of the dead and even manifest them, so I do wonder if they'll have any role to play in taking down Goliath, considering they are suspiciously missing this entire chapter. And we know Kion is not able to just interact with life spirits, as he has at least reverence for and is able to understand what Percy means when he says he is the life spirit, but also we know he can just summon regular spirits. Spirits are pretty decent size too. Remember the 2 spirits he summoned against, it wasn't Gog Magog. It's something completely different. But essentially the 2 earthen spirits he summoned against Tristan when he was trying to, off him, they could be pretty useful right now just due to their sheer scale and size, and possibly sinking Goliath into the ground, since unlike Tristan, I don't think Goliath can spontaneously start flying. So I think it actually is pretty suspicious that those 2 aren't shown this chapter, and I do hope it is the collective group effort that takes down Goliath, and it is not any of the knights spinning back to help them after they diff the evils. I actually do genuinely want the sidecast to be potent, to be powerful. And of course, this does seem to be their main role, right? If our big bad 4 knights are taking on a main antagonist, then realistically it would be up to our sidecast to kind of take care of themselves. And we do have powerhouses in the sidecast. We do have Ballin, we do have Nasians, we do have the Donners when he's not, drained of everything. We do have some monsters, beasts, and creatures ourselves. So I am hoping that they get to cook and take down Goliath on their own. But of course, I've been talking too long. It's already 14 minutes in the review, and I need to place this thing down somewhere. So hold on. Oh, I feel so good that I can actually even remote. Look at your boy. Look, oh, you can't see. Can't see. I'm here. Be careful. Look at your boy. Look at your boy. One hand. Look, Ma. One hand. But all right, let's place you down, buddy. Let's place you down. At least for now. I'll set you back properly in your little abode after the review. Because it'd be too much of a hassle. Put you back there now. Kingdom keys move. Kingdom keys move. Kingdom keys move. Okay, there we go. Yeah, please do not fall off this surface. I beg of you. I beg of you. You will break everything. Good girl. All right, but actually into the review itself. Sorry, I was yapping a lot about the cover page because I think it's very, very important. It's going to end up coming back to either haunt us or bless us later. But with it being the case, let's hop into chapter 202, The Truest of Evils. We see Diodora just straight as he gets licked awake by Snark. Actually, I think Sia is the Chimera. I think Sia is the one who licks him and wakes him up. Because we know that Snark, I think, is the snake who has, like, the human head. His mouth, they're both purgatory beasts. Essentially, Diodora was knocked out by falling. Notably, none of that damage got reflected back to Beltreep, because obviously that was, like, environmental damage. Meaning another way to diff Diodora, even if you do have hatred towards him, destroy the environment around him. Rocks don't have feelings. And the rocks cannot reflect back onto you. But we see Diodora wake up after he's licked by, I assume, Sia. And he goes, oh, I fell from atop that tower. And this is why I say where you get to see everyone else. Look who's here. Hauser guiding a tornado against Goliath. And this is why I said this earlier shot is kind of weird, because it looks like they're on less even footing. Obviously, Goliath's legs aren't that long, but this is like halfway up Goliath's torso. It's kind of weird that he's angled here, as if they're on different levels of ground, but clearly they're still on the same flat ground. Goliath is smashing away at the ground, missing. Meanwhile, Ballin is slicing up its stomach here, and Hauser's holding it back with a tornado. We don't actually get to see Nazians do anything here, though, so which is kind of unfortunate. But obviously, we see Diodora say, oh, I fell from atop that tower. And we see that a certain someone runs up, and it's like, oh, snap out of it! Are you okay? It's too dangerous just to sit. Why am I struggling with basic English so much? I swear it's me. But she says, snap out of it. Are you okay? It's too dangerous just to sit here. And yes, but ISIL too. It's also dangerous to run up to strangers. So these strangers with massive beasts right next to them. Obviously, you're lucky they're docile, but still. We see that ISIL 2 immediately realizes, wait, are you that handsome gentleman who reminds me of popular anime antagonist Griffith? I'm kidding, okay. But she says, wait, are you? And obviously, ISIL 1 is like, no, don't stray away from me, please. Daddy Tristan gave me one job, and I cannot do that if you're running away. And we see that ISIL 2 says, yes, I know that, but what? But what? You see one handsome fella until you're ready to risk your life, huh? Hey, you know, I'm a person who believes shoot every shot you can, but within reason. If it's me shooting a shot or my life, I ain't risking it. I'm saving my life. I want to be alive to shoot another shot, and then possibly miss a shot. Oh! Okay, that almost fell and broke everything. But I'd rather be alive to take another shot than try and send a shot when it's not needed. Come on now, ISIL 2. Come on now, ISIL 2. You should know better. But we see that Diodora twitches and is like, wait a second. This magic force. Oh no. And we cut away to immediately see two top tier, grade A, #1, not for fun, ranked for glory aura farmers. Nakaba said, I need to get one panel right this entire review, and he, chapter, and he smacked his schmeat on the table real quick and wiggled it around for everybody, because he made Ironside and Pelgard look mad metal, mad clean, mad thick, mad juicy. However, there's a notable detail here. Ironside's armor is not repaired. Remember, it's also supposed to have like a chest thing over it, and we've seen that Worlding's armor self-repairs. But Ironside, he's missing the chest piece here. Now, obviously, this could just be Nakaba deciding to keep that design detail. But I also think it is very important. But then again, Pelgard has his intact, which is kind of going to ruin the little thematic thing I want to throw in here. But I think it's pretty poignant that Ironside's armor is missing the chest piece. And where's your heart? Your chest. What did the cast up do to Ironside? It took away his heart, which he barely had, but still took away his heart, took away his love for Diodora, which was his motivation for doing everything, even coming to Camelot in the first place. Which is what happens later on in the chapter. I'm very interested to like see Ironside try to review his memories. Like, does he even know why he came to Camelot now? Is he just like, I've always been here to serve King Arthur. I never actually had to think about stuff like that. Like, what is actually going on in his head? Because like, at least for Pelgard, it seems like Pelgard. But then again, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because of that one flashback that showed everyone, including Varghese, under the service of Arthur, seemingly before the 16 or the now 18-year ago time skip. Like, it seemed like everyone was with Arthur before. I have no idea, like, why Pelgard is in Camelot particularly. We know why he's in Camelot now, because of his wife and Richard, or at least that's why he was here. Now he's just serving King Arthur. But, like, I forget if they explain it in his little section of the story in part 2 why he particularly came to Camelot in the first place, or if he was just a native resident. But with that being the case, we have these two posted up here, but Ironside's chest piece is broken because he lost his heart, he lost Diodora, and he's wearing that fact on his face, or on his chest, because he has a broken heart, even if he doesn't know why. And it doesn't matter to him to repair it or to fix it, because he doesn't know it's even broken in the first place. It's kind of like, it's like a double entendre of thematic messaging. Only thing that blows a hole into that is that Ironside is completely, or Pelgard is completely intact. So it's like I want to say that's intentional by Nakaba, that, and notably it has to be intentional by Nakaba. Presumably, if he didn't want it to be broken, he wouldn't have drawn it broken. But still, interesting that Pelgard is still entirely intact. Maybe implying that he has a heart that can still be saved, unlike Ironside. Maybe there's some level here. However, I will admit, I think this is some classic Nakaba. I'm going to give these characters heights and not really draw them how they should, because realistically, Ironside is way too tall. He's way too tall here, or Pelgard's way too short. Because Pelgard is 6 foot flat, and then Ironside is 6'1". I know people think the difference between 5'11" and 6 foot is like half a foot, but this is what, like, Pelgard's, assuming Pelgard's at peak height here, right? Like, let's say his eyes, which should just be here, so you can probably see through it. Let's say the tip of his head is right here at the top point, because obviously I'm going to go into the spikes. Ironside's eyes either have to be here or here. I feel like they're here, but they may be here. But if Ironside's eyes are here, and he has the rest of his head, I don't know about y'all, but my eyes are not on the top of my dome. Ironside actually is a bit too tall here. But you could chalk this up to multiple things. Either A, the most simple one, Nakaba just forgot their height scales, or 2, that Ironside's flying and floating just a little higher than Pelgard, who still rides on the shield, but Ironside does seem to fly freeform. But with these two ore farmers here, we see that they begin to talk that talk. They start talking just a teeny tiny bit spooky. Sorry, I don't know why I put so much emphasis on the word spooky. But, oh, and I will admit, Pelgard and Ironside are going to sound a little rough this review, because I don't remember how I voiced these two characters. I'm going to go back after this review is posted and go, like, listen to some of my old reviews so I can get their voices down, because I completely forgot how I voiced either of these characters. But we see Pelgard declare, what a raucous festival this has become. And we see Ironside declare, no wonder we were called over so suddenly. And we see Beltriep finally realizes, well, I see his majesty has granted you his power as well. And Worldane, who was there at the power transplant, is like, oh my good sirs, Ironside and Pelgard, welcome. And once again, so far, we're 3 for 4 on tragic reasons, or at least good people being behind the 4 evils, right? Like, Pelgard, real nice guy, does it for his wife, got brainwashed because of it. Ironside, not a real nice guy, but at least loves his kid, loved his wife, is doing it all for them. Pretty rough scenario. Beltriep, seemingly real nice guy, abandoned by his kingdom, had lost everything he once had, came to a new place, married a woman, that one possibly died since, considering she never gets mentioned by Isol 2. Bada bing, bada boom, has a daughter, loves her, remembers to get taken. We just don't have enough context or history for Worldane to know what her deal is. She may have just always been evil. I feel a lot of people theorize that she either may be Merlin's like long-lost sister, or at least another person from the age of Belialowin, which is another era we just really didn't cover all too much. But still, I could definitely see the latter being the case. Merlin having a sister, I mean, it's not like impossible, but I think making them that closely tied is a little funny. I would rather be interested if either A, she is just a random disassociated age from that era, considering we know she was old enough to be the progenitors of the lizard people, and or she was just a random. That was good. Well, actually, no. I think only the first one. I just like the idea that she's an ancient mage roaming around with no real connection to Merlin, but maybe has like a respect and knowledge of Merlin because, you know, Merlin's the greatest mage in all Britannia. But with that being the case, we see that Tristan just is a teeny tiny bit nettled on the fact that they're now on number 4-3, or 4-3. And we see Tristan say, all the 4 evils? And Gawain says, each one with truly dominant force under their belts. Be it even Gawain and, you know, big bad Gawain is like, oh, we may be cooked. hold on. Whew. See, that's something I didn't even. If I had meant to grab the cord with my toe, I would have never done it. Essentially, even Big Wayne is like, they may give us back shots. We are literally outnumbered right now, and I just burned a whole bunch of juice from the totem, and we may be cooked. Oh no. But we see that Percival's like, I don't care about these odds. I don't care about getting cooked. I don't care about anything. I know my real daddy when I see him. And he flies straight up. And Gawain yells, Percival! As Pelgard looks on with the double exclamation point. You know it's serious when it's not just one exclamation point, but two. And he pulls up and says, Pelgard! Don't you recognize me? It's me, Percival. I got revived after all that. Which, once again, does feed into the idea that Percy, even if indirectly, was watching his friends over the time skip. He was definitely watching, because how would he know that Pelgard even knew he died in the first place? It's not like Pelgard was ever in the demon realm and saw that, but it's very likely that when it was explained to Pelgard back in his own domain, Percy, reading the life spirits in the area, heard Anne and Nasians and Donnie and Gother at the time all give Pelgard essentially the plot synopsis of what happened to Percy. So there's a nice little detail, and I could definitely see this confusing people for those who forget about the Pelgard section in part 2. But don't worry, this chapter will immediately go on to remind you just in case you did forget, which I do give credit to Nakaba. He'll set something up, but then if he thinks there's a possibility that you won't remember what he set up, he's very likely to throw you a little underball or like a little pitch and be like, here, remember this. And we see that Percival doesn't just stop there. I got revived after all of that. Anne and the others told me about how you sided with Camelot for the sake of your family. Which is true. Which once again does make me question like, hey, were you listening or not? What do you mean Anne and the others told me? Did you not get it for yourself? But so it may throw a wrench to the idea that Percy as Lysa was watching everybody. But with it being the case, he says, Anne and the others told me you sided with Camelot for the sake of your family. That's what I thought. You're not a bad man at all, right? Are you? I was so glad to hear that. We can fully protect your family, Pelgard. So please, join hands with me, and let's defeat King Arthur together. Okay. All right. So there are a couple things that tickle a little funny bone in me. And by a couple things, I literally just mean Roldan being like, man, if this boy don't shut his behind up, and Pelgard literally being like, wait, hold on. I will let you cook. I'll let you absolutely beam this boy with presumably what looks like possible ability to exterminate, right? If you'll see, well, or it's at least some type of spell, right? It's like a glowing magical aura surrounds Roldan's finger. But she's very specifically stopped by Pelgard. And it is also very interesting that no one else is fighting. It's like this interaction put the whole battle on pause. But I do get it to some degree. One, I get the four evils not necessarily engaging because they're pretty confident they got it. Especially with Roldan claiming she was dealing with the god of war. It's likely they're fully confident in the idea that Lance can't just appear, right? Like there's not really going to be a way for them to solidly turn this into a 4v4, especially when they have to worry about the battle on the ground, which has who knows how many casualties or limits or anything like that. So realistically, where's I going with that? Hold on, no. I'm getting EP as I record. No! Hold on, it's jumping jack time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to join me, we're going to quickly do 10 jumping jacks. This is to wake the pencil man up so he doesn't jack up and the recording process, because he had a bar there. He was going for something. Worldane, Magic on Finger, Pelgard saying let him cook. Something to do with the battle on the ground. Oh no. The main point was, before I do the jumping jacks, the main point was the idea that the evils are so confident, and that Pelgard especially is so confident to let this rock out and listen to it, mainly because they have no fear of Lance showing up, because Roldan left them stranded in another one of the realms of Camelot, presumably. And unless Lance turns into Super Saiyan 3 Gotenks or Super Boo and starts scraping holes through dimensions or starts slicing holes in space, it's very unlikely that Lancelot will be able to find them, much less reach them in time before this battle actually gets underway. So that's probably why everyone's so comfortable standing around and waiting, at least on the four evil side. And obviously we know Gawain and Tristan are just hesitant because Percival's not only just in the way, but also because they're still extremely powerful four mages. Or four holy knights, or the four evils essentially. But with it being the case, Pelgard holding Roldan back from cooking. Let me hit these jump jacks so I can get cooking. Hold on. Hoo. Get the blood flow. Yeah. Oh, my stomach. Oh, why is it always the stomach? push-up too. We're gonna do a push-up too. We gotta get that blood flow pumping. Pumping. For that good, proper... Oh, my ankles. That wasn't even my ankles. That was my knees. Why'd they crack? Oh, I'm getting too old too quick. Hold on. We gotta do a push-up. That's 3. That's 4. That's 5. That's 6. That's 7. That's 8. That's 9. That's 10. That's 11. Okay, I'm gonna start sweating if I keep going. I can't sweat too much. It's too hot. Alright. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope y'all don't mind the antics. I love them. I love editing me. It's always fun for editing me to go back and be like, do I cut this? It's because I do cut out a lot of antics. If you ever notice like sharp cuts in the videos, it's usually because I decided to do a stupid little bit and I'm like, no, we're gonna cut that out. We're gonna cut that out. So sometimes editing me, I'm lagging. All right, one sec. Sometimes editing me does have to cut the bit, but I like to leave the bits in just to keep y'all on y'all toes. But with it being the case, especially in these longer videos, like for the shorter videos, obviously there aren't too many bits. But in these longer videos, I like to have fun. Whatever, we're yapping. But with it being the case, whew, okay, that did wake me up. All right. With that being the case, Pelgard whacks, not just whacks, coax Percy right away. And I will admit, if I had one critique for this chapter, and I do mean one, because I think the rest of the chapter is literally just a banger. What does this look like? What angle? In fact, let me just scroll up. Let me just scroll up before I even ask the question. Looking at this panel right here, which way would you say Percy was hit? Do you think he was hit skyward, like as in Pelgard swung up, or was it Pelgard swung down? Which way do you think? What way would you put it? Personally, looking at this panel, I would think Pelgard knocked Percy up, specifically on the chin, based on how the bottom of Percival's chin gets hit. His neck goes back. He's bleeding from his mouth as if he suddenly had force shoved right here because he has his mouth open. But then what direction does Percival go after Pelgard just and coax him? He booms into the ground? At like max, how? Like I'm like the only way I can rationalize this is that Percy getting hit turned off his flight, so he gets knocked up and then basically I guess hits terminal velocity as he gets thrown to the ground. But realistically, if his flight got shut off, he should have been sent way higher and then fallen. But no, in this panel he goes from getting hit up to just immediately careening, crashing straight down into the ground. I don't know. If anything, it should have been him getting hit on the dome, like straight Pelgard reeling back and clocking his head down if you want to do the slam into the ground reaction. I think it's one of the rare cases where Nakaba's paneling and like how he drew something simply doesn't line up with what follows next, which is crazy because Nakaba is a very fantastic user of panels in order to convey motion and action. So it actually is, it's the one thing that caught me off guard and it sucked me out of the chapter a little bit because it just seems like it shouldn't work that way. Everyone has an idea how this should or could be working like this. Percy getting hit up but then somehow being knocked down. Maybe there's like an in-between panel missing and Pelgard knocking him up into a knockdown. Sort of like an up air into a forward air from Mario. Like something like that. I don't know. Or up tilt into forward tilt. Like or up tilt into forward air. I have no idea. But we see Percy gets boom straight into the ground. And Gawain is like, we're in enemy territory. What fool walks in unguarded like that? And Gawain, buddy, wow, this is Percy. Unfortunately, you know, the exact fool who walks in like that. But obviously Percy, while he did get hit, he is, in fact, one of the two titular characters who might as well be fundamentally immortal. Like, I'm assuming in order to get rid of him, you have to atomize him, but then I think you just reduce him to his light spirit form, and then I think he'd probably be even more dangerous, so you probably don't even want to atomize him. But, with it being the case, Percy goes, grips the ground up as Pelgard lands, hitting the boom, showing off the thunder calves. I know we call them thunder thighs. What do we call them? Crazy calves? Cantankerous calves? Cankle? But regardless, Ironside booms, not Ironside, Pelgard booms at the ground. So, I mentioned earlier how there was a height discrepancy because Ironside is only 6'1", Pelgard 6 foot. Did you know that Ironside is 82 pounds lighter than Pelgard? Ironside's a smooth 184, which is actually a weight I want to hit because like I still got a whole bunch of cheek fat and belly fat and just like fat. Well, actually, I'll admit the arms. They've gotten like it's pretty darn solid, but still I have fat all over me that I still do want to lose. So 184 actually isn't a solid weight. But Pelgard, he's a bit hefty. Well, in a good way though. Pelgard's like literally all muscle. You know that man, you could grind meat on those abs. But he is 264. At least according to the wiki. Pelgard is 264 and Ironside's 184. Or no, I think Ironside's either one of those two is 182 One of them ends in a 2, one of them ends in a 4. But essentially, Pelgard's big and hefty. Straight muscle, but he's only supposedly 1 inch shorter than Ironside. So, we know who eats more, who gets in the gym more. But with it being the case, we see that Pelgard lands to start pushing this chaotic propaganda, if you will, as he says, "You're talking nonsense. I've not a single family member to my name." Oh, okay, actually no. I think that little gravel actually works for Pelgard. The other one is too close to the SNR voice. We'll see. "You're talking nonsense. I've not a single family member to my name. And for that matter, I know for a fact this is the first time we've met, but I know you well. Percival, the Knight of Prophecy with wing-like green hair." And we see Percival already starting to heal, by the way, showing that even when he's not actively healing himself, his body is consistently regenerating to be in top shape. He says, "No." But, obviously, this raises a very interesting ideation and bit of information. Pelgard has met Percy before. Pelgard has met Percy, in fact, right when he first got off of God's Finger and they fought for a little bit. Then he was teleported out by Lance. Then it was towards the end of the Dark Talismans arc. He saw Percy again. He was chasing him down in the first place after the 4 talismans. Then it was in the middle of the Invasion of Leona's arc, where he ended up humbling Gawain. So that's the 3rd instance. And then I don't think he ever sees him again for the rest of the times. But at least 3 times he's met Percy. But in Pelgard's mind, spontaneously, he's never met Percy before. On discrepancy, right? Especially considering based on what we've seen in the Chaos Magic before. Supposedly it only locks up the memories of those really deeply important to you. I wonder if that'll be confirmed. But with it being the case, we see that Gawain, you know, I'll give them good merit and demerit on this move here. Gawain lunges in with what looks like an exterminate ray of some sort, or at least some sort of energy spell, and Tristan lunges in, swords drawn, ready to swing on Pelgard, still in Demon Mark, by the way. So I'm not sure how much time has passed, but Tristan is holding Demon Mark for a while and maintaining control. So very impressive Tristan development. But with it being the case, W homies for wanting to make sure Percival doesn't get hurt more, so they go in and dive in to help support him with an attack. But at the same time, y'all, the other 3 evils are here. As much as I usually support ganking, I don't think ganking one guy is going to work this well, unless you all blitz him with your one-shot abilities. And the Gawain doesn't even have a real one-shot ability, but like, at least for Tristan, if you don't try to arc this man or hit him with Annihilation right now, and for Gawain, she should just use Exterminate, right? Or like anything that vaporizes, because obviously she now knows that they can regenerate, so the only way to truly take out one of the 4 evils is to, I mean, like, I'm assuming atomization works, right? Because we know their bodies are able to restore themselves, or at least be restored, and we know that Percy's one-shot ability doesn't work on them all too well. But like, considering Annihilation is literally light and darkness mixing to just eradicate you, like straight eradicate you, I feel like Tristan should actually be a pretty hard counter for these guys. But it really depends on how much gets erased, how permanent that erasure is, all that. But with it being the case, they do go to Gang Pal, but they forgot they were playing 4v3 multiplayer. They're already down a player. As while they dive in, Percy's like, "Wait, no, you two, you're about to get mogged." And we see they don't just get mogged, they get more mogged as they get hit with Belfast Margot, and both get blasted away by these arcs of light. And I will admit, I need to hit jumping jacks again. Oh, what happens when you get too EP, dog. This is why you don't record late in the day. And this is why you don't record 35-minute live reactions. Why did I jump so long for that one? But, he, ha, hoo, ha, he, hoo, ha, he, hoo, ha, he, hoo, ha. Okay, I want to bust through the floor. A little too heavy to be doing jumping jacks. But, with it being the case, they both get hit with Belfast Margot. Now, notably, I own Elden Ring, but I don't have played Elden Ring. There's a boss named Margit in that game, right? Is it Margit or is it Margot? I feel like Margot. The Margot rings a bell because of Elden Ring, but I'm not sure if the boss is named Margot or Margit, or if those are both in the game. I haven't done much research on Elden Ring lore. I watched like one video. But Margot sounds familiar. Even Belfast sounds a little bit more familiar. But I think I'm thinking of Belfast in Ireland. Is that a thing? Hold on. Forget it. I'm gonna Google. Belfast, Ireland. Let me make sure that's the thing, because I got that from Leverage. I didn't really got the stuff for myself. I'm pretty sure Belfast is a thing. Yeah. Also, it's literally the capital of Northern Ireland. So Belfast is a thing. Yeah, it is Belfast. Oh no, Belfast. So this is Belfast. This is Belfast. That's where I got that from. Then Margot. Let me just look at Margot. Oh, I'm thinking of Margot Robbie. So it must be Margot then, because Margot just comes up as Margot Robbie. But let me just put in Margot Elder. Oh no. So there is Morgoth, not Margot. So I got both of those wrong. So it is best. I'm so glad I actually looked that up. Y'all, I know y'all gonna fry me in the comments, but Belfast is the capital of Ireland, not Belfast, and Margot is only Margot Robbie, not Margot or Margot from. Or no, so there is a Margot. There's a Margot and a Morgoth. Am I tweaking? Is that both? Or are those two different things? I see Morgoth the Omen King, and then I see How to Beat Margot. Regardless, neither of those are Morgoth or Margot Robbie. So regardless, I was wrong on both fronts, but the names did ring a bell for a reason. But they both do get hit by that and get sent flying by an Ironside who does come in to support Pelgard on the support, which I do like. It does go to show that some of their ties to each other still do exist, even if a majority of their positive ties are gone. And we see, as they both get kablammed, Tristan on demon timing. I see what I did there, because he's literally a demon. You know, sometimes I'm something of a chef myself, though. Sometimes I do be making. No, okay. But essentially, Tristan gets bounced once, immediately recovers, drags into the ground looking all metal, as Gawain immediately starts flying again off of one bounce as well. And we see that Ironside says, "Butting into someone else's chat, you need to learn some manners." Once again, though, our cast on both sides, well, not on both sides, I say mainly our Four Evils cast is to some degree holding back, because obviously I believe if Ironside could do more damage with his Chaos Amps, he probably would, but it does all seem to be basic stuff. So far, Pelgard has only swung with his big ball, and Ironside is only attacking with his base stuff. We still have yet to see what the Chaos Amp has really done for these two, other than possibly just raise their stats. But I feel like it's probably going to be more than a stat raise, considering it's literally Chaos. But with it being the case, Tristan, just straight... That's the thing about Demon Mark Tristan, man. He's always aura farming, and it's always cool, man. While Gawain is looking very... What's the Dragon Ball character? She's looking very Namek Vegeta coded with this pose, where like, I don't know why, I'm getting strong Namek Vegeta vibes. Tristan straight doesn't take his eyes off the enemy. Straight meme. That's my boy. That's Meliodas' son right there. That's Zeldris' nephew. That's Elizabeth's son right there. That's the grandchild of the Demon King and the Supreme Deity right there. He's on straight. You know he wants to catch a body. The demon instincts are running wild. He is still coherent. He wants that smoke. But we see that Percy does manage to stand up. Not having fully healed himself, mind you, but stands up. And he says, "Wait, you saved Donnie and his crew from their pursuers. Did you forget that?" And Pelgard, you can clearly see, this does bring up something. He is listening. That's the thing. While the Chaos Magic clearly did mess with a lot of their base inhibitions and beliefs, it didn't mess with everything. Because Pelgard is still listening and engaging with Percy, which is something he would do in character. And he's like, "Huh. Donnie. And by his crew, you mean Engelhard and Gother? Yes, I remember that quite well." And Percy's like, "Wait, so you remember why you did that, right? You did that because you care about me, and they're my crew." But then Pelgard says, "Indeed, I have no idea why I ever did anything so moronic." So, once again, we're getting more and more insight, and this helps because we actually get to see these events. So far with Beltreeb and Woldane, it's kind of been like, we ball, and obviously we had that one chapter where Pelgard and Ironside were both in plant, which was like in the 180s, I think? Or even before that, but essentially, we got to, it has to be before that. But essentially, we got to see Ironside and Pelgard both implanted with the Chaos Strand, and it's arresting their memories. But we're getting even more context. It is truly only memories that have direct linked associations with people they deeply care about. Because clearly, since Pelgard didn't deeply care about his betrayal of Camelot, and or Donnie and Anne and Gother, despite his role as one of the Four Evils, where he should have tweaked over Gother, he just doesn't get why he did it. But he remembers doing it, which is more than what he can say for Percy, who he flat out doesn't remember meeting before, which is very, very interesting. So I do wonder if this new Pelgard remember this interaction once Percy obviously escaped from here, but still, it's going to be very interesting. But we see, since he's shocked that he did something so moronic, we cut away. Not far away, though, to Ironside, who is freeform flying, and Gawain and Tristan. Tristan on the ground with the demon wing kind of does go crazy, though once again, Nakaba completely shifting how many wings the guy has on every occasion. Right here, he has no wings, but I get him not having any wings here because that block Gawain. Then here, I believe, he doesn't show wings here, but he has 4 wings here, and then he has 2 wings here. Once again, Nakaba, he just be balling, bro. He really do be balling without balling, because it don't matter how many wings Tristan has, as long as he has some. But we see that the crowd that's left is like, oh, we are so background fodder. Oh, help us. I don't want to die. And we see that Gawain is very annoyed and very confused as he says, I swear, what has gotten into Percival? And Tristan, I'm sorry, like he does, admittedly, he did get massive aura points for kissing Isolde in front of the entire stadium. Claiming yourself a tall baddie in front of the entire world. That I respect. Tristan, base, you get some aura points for that one. I'll give you that. But there's something so oddly metal about Gawain complaining about Percival, and Tristan, after making a mistake on trying to double down on another enemy that Percival's already engaging with, he says, just focus on the enemy in front of you. We have to tear his limbs off and beat him with them. Like, Tristan being on such devious and diabolical side. And I mean, like, this isn't even devious and diabolical. It's just straight, cold, hard, reason, logic, focus. I just want to eat it. Because it's so good. I love seeing him like this. And I do hope he keeps some of these traits on. Now, of course, I do wonder. He's been in Demon Mark for a hot little second now. Remember when he was Tantris, he said he only had like 2 to 3 minutes. How much time you got left, Tristan, before you start to go berserk? I want to see it. And Gawain, if you don't buff up immediately, but with it being the case, we see that Ironside, very in character, I mean, I had a different perspective on this when I first read this, but very in character, says, these people bother me. And immediately casts Ragnarok of all spells to eviscerate that part of the arena and just slaughter a whole bunch of people who go, oh, they're spreading my cheeks. And Ironside didn't in fact spread their cheeks. But we see that Tristan says, stop it! Aren't all those people citizens of Camelot? And admittedly, when I first read this line from Ironside, I was like, whoa. Whoa. As he says, and what if they are? Bro, really, and like, notably, it's the pose he hits too. It's one thing if he was just like, if he was still in his regular, like, neutral stance, and it was like, and what if they are? It's the fact that bro really hit the, hold on, let me back up. Bro really hit the, and? I don't know why this in particular tickled me so. It's the fact that he just goes, and? So what if they are? There's not a lick and iota of care. But this does bring up a very interesting question that I had before, and notably, the explanation that was given before, now that I think about it a little bit more, definitely still is valid, but I wonder something. Why is Arthur simultaneously so highly valuing human lives, yet so far against them? Because we'll see, this, like I mentioned, this kind of move for Ironside is actually pretty in character. If he's following King Arthur's orders, he's more than willing to sacrifice human life. So is Arthur. We saw this back when Ironside was attempting to power the Coffin of Eternal Darkness with that entire town, if you'll remember, all the way back in part 1. Ian's hometown, he was trying to slurp and sack that group of human beings for the Coffin of Eternal Darkness. So we know Ironside himself, as long as he views the human sacrifices as necessary, will obviously do anything to other humans. Heck, obviously remember Percy's situation. That was just another random human, supposedly, that he just took the life of. And you know he slaughtered that family. Like he says, I found this wayward child on the road. I promise, Father. I surely didn't knock their cart over and slaughter every last one of them. Obviously he did that. So Ironside being willing to slaughter humans is in character, but it is very interesting as we see both Worldane and Belcheap confirm something. So naive, aren't they? And Belcheap explains, this is Anfuin, the prison we banish citizens of Camelot into. Insects matter more than them. So, this is the thingamajig. This is the thing. If you remember, Chaos, as far as we know, according to the Lady of the Lake, who I do think we'll see again in 4 nights, but probably not for a while, but Chaos, liked humans. They really liked humans. They had that perfect balance of light and darkness. On some Kingdom Hearts type beat, they had that perfect balance. So why is the current vessel of chaos, who claims to be, even as they are now, a human purist, so blasé about sacrificing human lives? Now, you may be able to argue, well, it's chaos. Chaos can just make more of them. But not only have we yet to see Arthur just create fully sentient life, every single time we've seen him make life, quote unquote, he has had to alter it. The only thing we've seen Arthur create is environment so far. But also, we know that Chaos valued human life so much, and Arthur valued human life so much, that he didn't like the idea of anybody dying. And he wanted everyone to live in an eternal happy kingdom. But we now know, on top of that, not only does he want everyone to live in an eternal happy kingdom, as long as they're all human, but he very specifically needs people in his eternal happy kingdom in order for it to run. That's why the constant kidnapping, the removal of people, and people following their dreams, or essentially their living nightmares, into Camelot. It's all because Arthur needs wishing power. He needs the hopes of these people in order to power Camelot, to fuel his battery, essentially. So why would he sacrifice so many lives so needlessly in Anfuin? I remember there was an explanation given prior, way back when. I asked the same thing about Gareth and his whole situation with Dareth. Like, dude, why would you want to do that? But someone mentioned that maybe it's like a concentration thing, where like the more humans there are, technically there's a flatter amount of hopes, but at the same time, if you have less humans but even more intense hope because of the loss of some of those humans, you could get stronger wishing power. That was the explanation for why, even though Gareth died, technically not only is he still alive through Gareth, but also Gareth's will and determination to keep moving forward within Camelot is technically met. Like there is ways it can work, but then that doesn't really explain why Beltreep and them are allowed to slaughter so many humans in general. Ironside just blew them off like it wasn't nothing when those were obviously still batteries. I highly doubt Anfuin is entirely self-sufficient. I'm assuming the hopes of these people still do power Camelot, so why risk booming them? Why have such a blasé reaction to them? The only reason I can think of off the top of my head is admittedly one I hope I'm 100% wrong on. I'm thinking it's a bit of that Cath influence leaking in. Because remember, Cath wanted to devour everything and didn't really care how they did it. They were the avarice, the greed, the evil, the negativity that existed within Chaos. So it's not entirely unfeasible that Chaos Cath, who was reabsorbed, remember, not destroyed, reabsorbed by Arthur, is influencing him, and by proxy influencing all of his subordinates as they're all infused with with different pieces of chaos, which are now all being re-influenced by Cath, as Cath was cast out because of all the negative feelings he had, which essentially, think of Cath as the Demon King Piccolo of the Seven Deadly Sins universe, right? Where Chaos, aka Kami, was once the name of Namekian, cast out those feelings, became Chaos, and then created Cath, but now they have re-merged into one being. Stronger than ever before, obviously, but at the same time, with those negative emotions back intact. So I think that may have some role to play in why they don't care too much, because it does feel weird to waste what we now know are fully necessary and useful resources. The fact that Beltreep says they're less than insects is kind of crazy, though, because he runs this place of less than insects. Buddy, you mean to tell me you're the Lord of Bugs? The Lord of the Flies, if you will? I'm sorry, but with it being the case, we see Gawain immediately turn to Tristan and be like, oh no, they're gonna trigger the boy. And she says, don't lose yourself. That's what they want. And Tristan is like, even if those people are precious to you? Now, admittedly, this line, I do wonder if this mistranslated or comes out of context, because I don't know why Tristan is saying this to this group in particular. Because, like, Ironside just attacked a bunch of random. Who's precious to any of the four evils here? Like, as far as we know, none of them are. But as Tristan is tweaking, Worldane simply says, oh, will you stop with that? The idea that anything matters more than our king's orders. Such a thing simply doesn't exist. And obviously, they leap right back into battle. Though I will admit, everyone is still relatively passive this chapter. If I had one other critique, everyone is relatively passive. Because no one actually uses magic this chapter. At all, from what I remember. Everyone's going very heavily fizz-based. The only real direct magic users are Nasians on the base level, and I guess technically no, because Diodora doesn't really use magic. So is it legit just Hauser, Nasians, and who? Most really, I mean, obviously Baln's lucky using his invincible magic, but like, and Percy heals himself. So there's still a couple uses of magic, and obviously Gawain and Worldane were going to start using spells. But with that being the case, there's a whole lot of fizz going on in here, fizz on fizz, and we see that Pelgard laughs. This ought to be a load of fun. And we see Percy ask, What did Arthur do to you? Go back to what you were, Pelgard. Please. You were like the dad I never had. Pelgard, I miss you, Big Papa. But we see that Gother says, don't call him Big Papa. That's actually kind of strange. Huh? Stay calm, Percival. Huh? That voice. Gother? Percy, you could have easily said that in your head, dog. You're so lucky Pelgard is not. He's literally running on autopilot right now, bro. Because he wouldn't be like, wait, that thing's still alive? But we see that Gother admits, I'm speaking directly into your mind. This is being caused by a chaotic force Arthur gave each of the four evils. The chaos he implanted in them forcibly locks away any memories that are incompatible with Arthur's orders. The memories of those truly precious to them. And the kind of people they could never replace in their lives. So, two things here. Number one, Gother's just suffering, man. I know they're the only sin that can enter onto him, but dog, please. Or not the only sin. Obviously, Bond could enter. Elizabeth could enter. Elizabeth's not a sin, though. But I think that's it. Obviously, Merlin can go to and fro as she pleases. But we're not just on film, but Camelot itself. But poor Gother, man, they get violated at every opportunity. And I didn't get to fully read Ignil's comment. Ignil left a comment, tried to defend Gother. But I think my only issue is he mentioned something about Gother not being Sacred Treasure amped. But one, not only is Gother's Sacred Treasure always on him, or at least I don't know why he would ever remove it. It's a light bow that he can summon at any time. In fact, I don't think we've ever seen Gother lay down his Sacred Treasure because it's always infused into him. It is literally a bow made of light. The twin bow Herod? Why would he ever let it go? So he technically should always be Sacred Treasure amped. And two, it wasn't because I think Ignil brought up the fact that the main reason Gother couldn't dodge is because he was in midair. Gother can't fly, so he has no way to redirect. Once his feeties were off the ground, he was already cooked. But it's not that Gother didn't just not react when he was slashed by Beltreep. Beltreep straight blitzed him. Gother was going to use a magical spell at the invasion. Admittedly, not using Twin Bow Hair, so maybe that's what Ignil was referring to. Like, maybe the spell itself wasn't be amped. But that means Gother went with an attack because he wasn't confident that he was going to be able to pull the Twin Bow Hair, or didn't think to. And then Beltreep grabbed his throat, threw him, and then slashed him. So Beltreep just is a speed tier above Gother pretty defensively, considering Gother tried to loop an attack and launch it, but got blitzed. However, speaking of Gother amps anyway, even while he is consistently getting downscaled, that poor puppet, he is broadcasting his thoughts not by implanting Percy with any arrow, but simply raising up his finger as like a Wi-Fi router or a Bluetooth port. Very, very impressive for Gother to be able to do something like this. And honestly, Gother's evolution, it makes me really excited to see Meliodas' proper evolution and Bond's proper evolution. I guess we got to see a hint of King, but I even feel like King was still holding back in his own little post-time skip stuff. And Diane's just never going to be allowed to cook, isn't she? Because she's a female character in the sevendeadlysins universe. But, like, with that being the case, I do hope we get to see the other characters have developed more unique abilities like Gother has. Because I don't think he could do this in the original series either. He had to connect with everybody through, like, the Twin Bow Hair, ironically enough. But right now, Percy is just being fed this information directly from Gother. But, obviously, Percy hears this from Gother and is like, wait, so that means I'm like that to Pelgard? Which I do think is beautiful. Once again, I called him Untguard. I called him Papa Pel. He wasn't your father boy. He wasn't your daddy. But literally, if you remember, Pelgard's whole emotional conflict for why he's serving Arthur within Camelot, despite being a really nice guy, is because of his wife, Fiona, who is reaping the benefits of Camelot, quote unquote. And you'd be like, what were the benefits of Camelot that he was reaping again, or she was reaping again? And then Pelgard felt obligated to support. It was very specifically the loss of their child, Richard. And while Pelgard was able to seemingly manage and function and cope better than Fiona was, it's clear you can tell he wanted to be a dad, or at least an uncle of some sort. He wanted some, like, youth to old man connection, or older gentleman connection, as he very quickly latched on to Percival. Like I said, they only interacted like 3 times, and probably no more than 15 minutes each time. And the second one, they didn't even really get to interact. Percival just saw him, and Pelgard just saw him. So ultimately, Pelgard already holding Percy in such high regard is very, very nice. And does it elaborate on the fact that ultimately it's gone. It's gone. I had a thought. It's gone. It's gone. What was I going to say? It's gone. It's gone. Can't remember. But see, ultimately, Pelgard was really desperate for Reek action, essentially. He really wanted that to fill in that suddenly role, and Percival helped him fill it out. Oh, and it also confirms that the chaos manipulation this is what I want to say. The chaos manipulation on the 4 evils is high level, but it's not high level enough to count for discrepancies that would have been introduced by the variance in probabilities of these memories. Because obviously these are major moments. Pelgard would have not shown up to Leonis if it wasn't for Percy. Pelgard wouldn't be chasing down the four talismans if it wasn't for Percy. So it really is the chaos inside Pelgard, specifically blocking out the Percy parts, because the Percy parts trigger strong responses in Beltreep's heart and in Pelgard's heart and Pelgard's soul. So it is specifically attacks that, but leaves the entire surrounding context available, which will lead into what Gother will go on to say, I think right here. Or no, not yet. I think he says it. Oh, no, yeah, he says right here. As Percy blushes a little bit from me, like, he wasn't my father, but he really was my daddy. As Gother says, I don't know how to undo it yet. I'm sorry. But if you can prod at the contradictions present in their memories, it might trigger a breakthrough. And we see that in the midst of the battle with Pelgard, Percy cracks weapon to weapon after already blocking Pelgard. Pelgard goes, huh? And Percy specifically flies right over to Ironside. And Percy broadcasts right back, Gother, I don't know if this is going to work, but I'll try it. And Gother's shocked to see Percy trying it immediately. And Percy even being intelligent enough to do it. As we see Percy say, Ironside, you didn't forget about me, did you? You know how much you hate me. Which is a good loophole to exploit. He doesn't even try to go with Pelgard because he knows he doesn't have enough context for Pelgard or his motivations. Because while he does have them, it would just simply wouldn't be applicable. Meanwhile, Ironside is a much more clear contradiction to point out. As we see Ironside declare, so we agree with each other for once. How nice, Percival. And we see that Ironside genuinely does get a little bit rage baited by Percival trying to remind him of who he is. And why Ironside hates him, as he says, oh, no, how could I ever forget? You are the hated knight of prophecy, the failed experiment, the one thing that should never have been born into this world. So, as you can see, since Percy, object of hatred, despite stirring strong emotions in Ironside, doesn't actually get blocked by chaos. This is another important distinction that gets up this chapter. They have to be strong positive emotions that get in conflict with Arthur's orders. They don't have to be strong negative emotions. Because and that does confirm that Daemon did truly love Escanor. There was hot debate about that, considering, Daemon didn't seem like the best of big brothers. But he truly did love Escanor, because those emotions are locked away. Just as the emotions of his family, just as the emotions of his daughter. And we see here again with Ironside, he doesn't have his negative emotions locked away, because they don't interfere with Arthur's orders. But we see they're about to. As Ironside goes on this entire Mortlock-esque rant, Ironside explains, you are the vessel I created by implanting a life spirit into the dead seventh prince of the past king 18 years ago. Now, this text bubble in of itself does also make me wonder if it's mistranslated or missing something. I'm sorry, seventh dead prince? The dead seventh prince? Of which kingdom? Camelot? I thought Arthur only had Caden and as an older brother and then Arthur himself. Were there 5 other kids for it to be the seventh dead prince? Because at least the way it's described here by Ironside, when he says the seventh dead prince, it's like he's implying the seventh dead prince of Camelot. It doesn't seem like some random prince anymore. So I do wonder if that's going to come back to haunt us. Does Arthur have more family that we don't know about? So far we only know about Gawain, but that's because we know about Gawain and Caden because they're active players in Camelot. But I do wonder. That line does catch my eye and tickle my fancy. So I wonder if it's not of Camelot. I wonder what past king is from, and I wonder if they'll ever find out, or Percy will ever find out who that was. But with that being the case, we see Ironside declare, oh, but if I knew this would be the result, I wish I'd never worked at all. And we see Percy once again showing that he definitely got fat brained over the time skip. I really want to see that time skip bit of Percy, but he really got clearly super gigapilled fat brained over it. As he says, or he questions, and I was a vessel created for what? And Ironside immediately goes, huh? And Percy asks again, I was a vessel created for what? Or rather, for who? Percy playing those fat mind games, essentially immediately going for the contradiction that he knows he can pull out of Ironside in particular, because he knows how much Ironside loves his son. Ironside only has the one thing that he has to worry about, which is his son, and that's being locked away. And obviously Percy's whole existence is predicated on Diodora being sick, and that being Ironside's motivation to even come to Camelot in the first place. You can definitely make an argument that Percy could have done a similar logic loophole test with Pelgard, but not only did that seem to fail when he mentioned that, hey, dude, you let my friends go, why'd you do that unless you cared about me? But Ironside, he's prime, nice, juicy, delicious, easy pickings, bro. No. He's delicious. But, of course, we immediately cut away, and we see that Goliath is spitting. Once again, I think Ballin should just take his head off with another head cutter blade. It's not like Goliath adapts to anything. Just keep removing its head so you get to remove its ranged attacks, and then possibly even grab its head and run away with it. Like, nothing. You can fly, dog. Like, just take it into the sky. I don't think Goliath can fly. But with it being the case, it's firing out beams, which are destroying whole chunks of the area. Hauser looking lean, cut, jacked, and juicy as always. Look at this man's build. He's like, I want to be built like Hauser when I grow up. And I'm an adult. But with it being the case, we see that Anne says, try to hold out, as she's done probably absolutely, like, no offense to Anne, but she is so power crept here that's actually kind of embarrassing. Isol would generally be doing more on the front lines. But we see that she says, try to hold out. Percival and Tristan are fighting hard. We have to follow suit. Poor Gawain. Poor Gawain. They just do not care about that poor woman. I know they care about her a whole lot. But like, still, the way she's talked about here, or not talked about at all, kind of tickles me, because it's like, yeah, just those two, huh? Just those two, Anne? Nothing about the little gremlin with the sun addiction. Huh? Okay. But with it being the case, we see that Diodora's like, Snork, see ya. Take me away from here. And I love how the chimeras lay down like, me? Gang, I'm not really built. Like, I'm trying to go back to Purgatory being completely real as you can. Like, I don't really rock with it. But with it being the case, we see that Isol 2 immediately goes, wait, where are you going? And Diodora says, back to the top. Only for Isol 1 to be like, it's even more lethal up there. Are you looking to die right now? And maybe, I don't know, maybe a little bit into that. But with it being the case, we see Diodora says, my father's there. I just want to meet him one more time, and I want him to remember me. And of course, this resonates a deep chord with Isol 2, who also struggled with memory. Though I do like how Isol 1 was able to sneak up closer in order to properly guard Isol 2 from the debris. But we see that she asks, but how? How will you bring back the memories King Arthur took from him? And Diodora goes, King Arthur, he took them away. I had no idea at all. And then I think this is Diodora expressing guilt, not just over his evil mentality, but specifically killing Turret and wrote this. But in Diodora's defense there, it was kill or be killed, and I personally believe in the philosophy, if it's me or you, gang, it's not gonna be me. At least I'm leaving here with some. You're gonna be slightly disfigured. Something's gonna be broken. So I will 100% hit the Xemnas case to save a heart attack command. We shall go together. Like I'm hitting you with that immediately if we're ever in conflict. But with that being the case, Diodora is feeling that guilt, and he ultimately admits that he doesn't really have a clue. He didn't even know that Arthur took him away. He didn't know that realistically all of his hatred and malice shouldn't be directed towards Percy or towards the Four Evils or anything like that. They should be directed, or Four Knights out of the Four Evils, but they should be directed at Ironside for taking away the one man who loved him. But ultimately, he is conflicted, as Isol 1 even looks on as Goliath stomps about like, I'm gonna diff you eventually. Diodora says, I'm sorry, my brain lagged so hard there, but Diodora says, I don't know what I should do right now, but even so, I just want to see my father. And of course, like I mentioned, I know y'all may have forgotten this review as long as I'll get up, but I mentioned all the way back at the beginning, trauma bonding over missing daddies who are closer than you think was not on my bingo card. But we see that Isol 2 takes a hand up, calls him to twitch, and says, let me join you. They lock eyes, they're both sweating, and he gives her a nice little squeeze as the chapter ends. Don, you're gonna end up alone. Gawain, you're gonna end up alone. And the boys, you're gonna end up alone, Buckaroo. What's his name is there with you? Obviously. What's his name? Edwin's probably there with y'all. But still, man, ain't that rough. But overall, if you could tell by how much I was yapping, how much I appreciated the character work in this chapter, and how I only had like one critique based on one panel of action, which could be interpreted in a different way, I'm assuming. Let me just grab this. Yeah. Hi there. the chapter's definitely worthy. 100% worthy, 100% worthy. I love it. I love the character work. I love the intrigue. I love the mystery. I love the elaboration on the chaos manipulation. I love the mystery that's around it. There's so much good in this chapter. Obviously not in like my top 10 chapters, but still probably up there in my top 20 of the series, just because of how much character work it does. And I always praise and glaze Nakaba for his character work. The artwork in this chapter is really, really good as well. Overall, just a banger chapter. If you've been always seeing this review, please do me a favor and leave bonding over trauma. Just the phrase, bonding over trauma, in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that all the kids so you not miss out on any of the channel. Also, you even have a Patreon below, or you support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. So now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the 35-minute live reaction to this very chapter, ad-free variations of all my videos, and you become a Toy Fiddle Patreon and Toy Fiddle member. You can order whatever video you want. Also the link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below. You drop 5 minutes for a short video, 200 beats on video, or any means at all. Any support is always appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I would like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Eternal Flame, Redwolf 4765, Astro, Super Flame Zero, Glacier, XZ, Zera, Brendan Payne, J2MA, Guillaume, Buddha, Alex Kenny, Yuki Ally, Enzo, Nevis 97, Zachary Wilson, Azo 2404, Planet Crone, Rye Rich, G Prosper, Swift Strike, Alexicon, Striker Man, and Autumn Mornings Lazo. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Dread Zoan, and A+A. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our Ink tier members: Austin Wimberly, Euchia, and Shrimpo the Shrimp. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier members: J Warrior and AZ Void. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons: Joaquin Munoz and Joaquin Munoz. And a final and thank you to our ultimate That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin's wife. Not Calvin Elder, who ultimately does have one of my kidneys, but now I must know, and I must undergo the process of getting this second one removed, so I can send the other over to this wonderful family.